What's up everyone and welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Cody from Celtics Pokemart. This is your part 2 of our Q&A videos. Keep in mind, I do not actually script any of these videos. Very rarely do I script anything, to be honest. I am basically going right in at this, reading the questions for the first time. So let's see if you guys can actually stump me, because I'm not actually going out and researching anything or anything like that. This is literally straight from the top of my head the moment I'm reading these. So I hope you guys appreciate that this is very genuine and raw. So let's get right on into it. But before we do that, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you're notified every time I upload new content. Oh, first question, Baguette says, will Crown Zenith be worth investing a lot of? Well, quite frankly, I always say to diversify your portfolio. If you are investing, if you're using Pokemon as an investment, I do not recommend ever putting all your eggs in one basket. There's a lot of variables to the term a lot. To some people, a lot might be 100 cases. To some people, a lot might be 10 cases. With that said, I do think Crown Zenith is definitely worth investing in. I feel like it will be a very solid investment. I'm sure even if a big reprint does get dropped off at our front door, Crown Zenith will still perform well in the long term. What is the most undervalued and overvalued sets from Sword and Shield era based on price of pack versus the cards inside? What are the single best cards that nobody cares about in the last era based on rarity, art, character, popularity? Overvalued sets, Evolving Skies, straight off. Honestly, I mentioned this before many times. Some people might disagree with me. Evolving Skies does not deserve the price tag it has. Modern sets should never appreciate over $300 like that, especially so soon after the set. It hasn't even been out for 2 years, I don't think, yet. Evolving Sky is extremely overvalued, and I think it's because basically PTCG Radio just actually talked about this with top alternate art cards in Sword and Shield, and he even actually stated that basically he doesn't even agree that the Umbreon should be worth what it's worth, but essentially because the market has been manipulated to the point where it is now a $500 card, the sealed product has to follow along with it. I do not think it's deserving. Keep in mind, Evolving Skies is not as low supply as some people might think. People are going to scream the word supply demand, supply demand. However, I guarantee you Evolving Skies is probably the most held product out of all Sword and Shield products. I guarantee it. What's going to happen is one of these days shit's going to hit the fan. People are going to dump off their product thinking, oh, hey, Evolving Skies has reached really high highs, and everyone's going to try to dump off all their product real fast, try to make a quick buck, and it's going to all flood the market, and I think that the prices will actually tank pretty bad. I'm not saying it's a bad investment. I do think it's very overrated, overvalued. As for undervalued, I have to go with Fusion Strike all day long. Fusion Strike has some very solid alternate arts in the set that I feel like actually are just as good, if not better, than a lot of the alternate arts in Evolving Skies. So it's almost the exact opposites. Both have awful pull rates. Some people will say, oh, Fusion Strike has the worst pull rates. Some people, there's no difference. Battle Styles, Chilling Reign, Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, they were all in the same era. Pokemon didn't come together and say, hey, like in a meeting, hey, let's print Fusion Strike with worse pull rates than all the other sets. That's not what happened. So Fusion Strike would be my answer for that. Single best cards that nobody cares about that are slept on from the last era. If you're talking Sun and Moon being the last era, I have to go with Venusaur. Basically anything to do with Venusaur. I think Venusaur is extremely slept on, and it doesn't deserve it. It's one of the big 3 starters. There were a couple good Venusaur cards like the Rainbow Venusaur and Celebi card. The tin promo, I actually have a graded card of right here. Actually, I have it real close by. This is a beautiful card. Now these came in the tag team tins. Most Venusaur cards are very slept on. They really are. And they're like, if you're looking for a really beautiful card that's not overpriced and really beautiful artwork, right here, this is a really good one right here. What are some rare items in my personal collection? Well, unfortunately, I'm not prepared for this question because I don't have everything with me. Some rare items I can say are back here. I do have this beautiful vintage keychain, and it still has the original price tag here. $3.99 from Ames. I don't know. Do you guys remember Ames? We had Ames everywhere in Pennsylvania. It's not, I wouldn't say this is the most valuable thing. It might be worth a little bit, but it's one of those things that are really cherished because it brings me back to my childhood. I have back here a first edition CP6 Charizard that I pulled myself, and that to me means a lot because I pulled it myself. I do have a lot of really good, I have a first edition Mint Jolteon that's ready to go out for grading, a Mint Blaine's Charizard ready to go out for grading. That both these cards I pulled myself out of packs. I do have a handful of cards here that are all ready to go out to be graded, but I have a lot of really cool stuff here. First edition Gyarados. I'm a fan of Flapple, actually. I might not grade that, but I pulled a lot of these myself. Like this one I pulled myself. A lot of first editions here. Absolutely love that card. First edition Dark Blastoise. And this is barely any of what I have. Like I have a lot of really good stuff that's just been beautiful. Dark Tyranitar. I'm also a big fan of Nidoking. So I like collecting Nidoking cards. I love stamped cards. I love EX Team Rocket. That was a really amazing set. Probably one of the best EX era sets of all time. Let's see. I don't have my rarest stuff here with me, but I do have a lot of really cool stuff here. And there's a Jolteon. Maybe I'll do a video going over a lot of my collection in further detail. Any preference with grading companies? Okay, so if you are looking for this is actually a really good question. I like questions like this. I don't mind personal questions either, but stuff like this, because this is extremely educational and this can be very useful, especially if someone's newer watching this video or someone that's unsure of what to go with if this is your first time going with a grading company, even if you have been in the hobby for years. Personally, if you are looking for the best value, and I would say something that's a little bit lower risk, probably PSA would probably be your best bet, mainly because PSA is a shitty grading company, and I say that with zero love. PSA is a joke. PSA will slap a number on anything that doesn't deserve it. I've seen PSA 8s, I've seen cards that should have been PSA 8s or 9s that come back like PSA 5s, 6s, or 7s, like that don't make no sense. And the problem is they don't give you subgrades, so you never know why it actually got that grade sometimes. And then I've seen PSA 10s that were in garbage condition. It's really hit or miss, but here's the thing. PSA 10s are so much easier to get than 10s from other grading companies. Now, if you want quality grading, I actually do like CGC. They're very particular with their grading, though. Here's the thing. Like, they will nitpick every little thing. A CGC 10 is so much harder to get than a PSA 10. Even if it's just a regular 10, not a perfect 10. We're not even talking perfect 10s. But if you can get a perfect 10, there is a very high premium on a perfect 10, depending on how rare the card is. So, perfect 10 will be a lot like a Black Label 10 from Beckett. I really do like the slabs from Beckett. They're thicker slab. I think it feels more premium than all the other grading companies, in my opinion. There are some people I know that actually don't like Beckett because they're too thick. It really comes down to preference. If you're looking for value, though, PSA is probably going to be your safest bet. I'm not saying that you're going to get the absolute most value out of your card, because if you know your card, this is the loophole here. If you know that card will definitely get a perfect 10 or a Black Label 10. Now, I mean, you need to have a fair amount of certainty here, because it's not as easy as it sounds. Just because it comes out of a pack, really nice condition, doesn't mean it's a 10. If you think it actually has a legitimate shot at that 10, a Black Label or a perfect 10 from CGC or Beckett, then it's worth sending to those companies, because the perfect 10 and the Black Label are worth way more than a PSA 10. So I hope that helps you decide. Basically, if you are just trying to be safe and play it safe, PSA probably is going to be your best bet, because unless if it's a 10 with other companies, it's going to be worth less money. Marcel says, how is the Pokemon Center connected to Pokemon International, and could it be Pokemon International's policy to only supply Pokemon Center with Sword and Shield products which are out of stock at wholesalers? Products such as booster boxes, like Brilliant Stars, are all still available on Pokemon Center's website, except for Evolving Skies. for obvious reasons. This way they keep the product affordable for people living in the US, Canada, UK at least. Pokemon Center and Pokemon Company International, they're the same thing basically. Pokemon Center is run by Pokemon Center International. It's literally a direct branch off of Pokemon Company, okay? So they're basically the same thing. Okay? With it being their policy to keep products affordable, what do you mean affordable? Pokemon Center is not affordable. Pokemon Center is overcharging for most products. They charge MSRP on everything. It's a set MSRP across the board. And yeah, your best bet for Brilliant Stars booster boxes is going to Pokemon Center, and that's because supplies dried up everywhere else. And why is Pokemon Center cheaper than everywhere else? Well, that's because Pokemon Center charges more. Okay, so their product actually lasts. Does that make sense? If you're going to charge MSRP $144 a booster box, whereas other stores are charging $130, which we were selling our Brilliant Stars for $110 a booster box or something like that. That's why we don't have booster boxes left, because we actually gave people a deal. And then they just started slowly climbing, whereas that's why the product actually lasts. Evolving Skies was actually available for quite a bit on Pokemon Center as well, if you don't remember that. After the reprint, it was up there for a little while. And that's because at the time, it was going for MSRP or less at a lot of other stores, so it kind of wasn't like anything too special until other stores started selling out, and then you start seeing prices going to like 160, 170, and then that's when people started buying out all the Pokemon Center ones. So it's not a policy. It has nothing to do with it. Use this for comparison. We sold our booster boxes of Scarlet and Violet for $115 a box, or I think we did like $108 a box if you got a whole case. Would you rather pay $115 or pay the $162 MSRP on the new Scarlet and Violet booster boxes? Chances are you're going to rather pay the $115 that we're offering and not Pokemon Center. So that way, that product at Pokemon Center is actually going to last a lot longer, because nobody's going to want to pay that $162 price tag when they could pay a $115 price tag. I hope that answers your question. How should you start a master set, and should I think differently when collecting vintage or new sets? Yeah, so definitely you are going to be thinking differently, because a lot of, when you're talking older sets, a lot of times these are already appreciated. The sealed product in those, a lot of the sealed product for these sets are already a little bit unattainable, depending on how old you're talking. So in that case, it would definitely be so much easier to just find the singles and approach it that way and build the set that way. Essentially, how I build master sets, which I do not do anymore, how I would be just number order. It's all numbered on the card. That's how I went about it. And then I would essentially put all the holos in sleeves and then sleeve it into the binder. If it has a reverse holo, you could put the reverses sleeved behind the holo on the same page, or you could even put it next to the card. So for example, Evolutions, there's a holo Charizard and a reverse holo. You put the holo in one spot, and then right next to it put the reverse, and then get to the next number, and then do the same thing all the way down. It really comes down to your own personal preference. There's no one way about doing this. When it comes to new sets, I usually like to rip open some sealed product after a little bit. If I do not have all the cards I need, then which you will not after that, then you start buying singles. I really don't recommend buying the singles before you start opening product. I would open some product first to kind of get the majority of the bulk that you need for the master set, and hopefully you can pull some of the big hits throughout that little bit of product that you do open. I think that's the best approach in my personal opinion. Timmy had $1,000 and bought various modern sealed product from Sword and Shield for the long hold, 10 to 15 years. Then Johnny had $1,000 and bought modern 9s and 10 slabs from Sword and Shield to hold long term, 10, 15 years. Years 20, 35, whose collection is worth more? Depending on how that $1,000 is spent, if it's spent responsibly on the sealed product, I would probably say that the sealed product would appreciate higher, and you would probably make more money than the slabs. Bro, I just started selling singles on TCGP and TCG Player a few weeks ago. I'm level 4 now, killing it. I buy bubble mailers online, 20 cents per, 60 cents per stamp, about 1 cent on top loaders, a case for $50, whatever that works out to. With this formula, I don't see much potential value in cards sub $1. So many 50 to 75 cent cards, and I want to list them but don't want to lose money. Is it acceptable to mail those in those cheap cards in envelopes. Yes, absolutely. That's actually what most TCG player sellers actually do with a lot of the bulk singles that they do sell. They actually use plain white envelopes. I would essentially just put them, I personally, this is how I do it. I put them in penny sleeves and then just put them in a plain white envelope. But I also wrap them in paper before putting them in an envelope. Between these sets, Chilling Reign, Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze, and Pokemon Go, which do you think I should invest in at ETB? Sorry for bad English, that's fine. For ETB, that's a very easy answer. I would say Pokemon Go. It's a specialty set, and it's very undervalued, underrated. Also talked about this in other videos about Pokemon Go, so I'm not going to go too crazy in detail about this, but I do actually think Pokemon Go is not a bad investment. It's actually a pretty solid investment that a lot of people are overlooking. Definitely Pokemon Go. What would you say off the top of your head are 5 alternate art cards that are good investments now to sell later on? Real fast, rapid fire, top alternate art cards. So we have to look at low entry point is the best way to start investing. When you are buying these cards when they're already at their highs, I do not recommend that. I think that's a very risky move because they can move, and the chances are with a higher valued card, it has a better chance to move down than it does up. Whereas a lower valued card, I feel like it does have a higher chance to move up than down. That's just the way I think about it. I personally would say start off Celebi. Celebi is a gorgeous artwork. Celebi is a fan favorite Pokemon, and Celebi is very affordable. Next one, Mew V. Now, there's a pattern here. A lot of these are coming from Fusion Strike. Mew V, another beautiful fan favorite Pokemon. Still very, very undervalued, actually, in my opinion. I don't remember the last time. I haven't checked on the value for recently, but last I checked, maybe around a $50 card. Like I said, it's been a little bit, so don't hold me to that, but it's probably not too far off from that. Next up, I would definitely have to say Gengar VMAX alternate art is I want to say it's a good we're going with it. Gengar VMAX alternate art. Gengar also does very well. It performs amazingly, actually. You could look at all the data for yourself. Gengar cards go nuts. They really do. Gengar alternate art, and it's still not like to the point where it's stupid priced, okay? And then another one. So here's the thing. Lugia V, this is definitely something worth it. Lugia's performed incredibly well, and the price on that card has dipped so freaking hard. It's like $180, $190 at this point. I don't see it getting much lower than that, and it's extremely playable right now, so I'm actually surprised it got that low. But Lugia's do really, really well. So we are at what? 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, and the last one, Joe, Charizard V is undervalued. It is undervalued. Fight me right now if you want to tell me that it's not. It is undervalued. It's undervalued. I promise you this. All right. I don't see why a Charizard alternate art is going for what, like $150, $160 when Umbreon's going for $500. Umbreon is not as popular as Charizard. Why is Charizard so cheap? Okay. I think it's way undervalued by Charizard. You don't have to fight me, by the way, just so you know. Is it worth it to buy sealed product over 2 times to 10 times what it was worth when it released because you started collecting when it came out after? That's preference. That comes down to personal preference. I personally do not like doing that. I look for deals all the time. Here's the thing. If you came into a hobby after a set was popular, I personally just buy the singles from those older sets if you can't afford the sealed product. So if you can afford the product, then buy it. It's your money. All right, that's what it comes down to. I personally would not spend the extra money on that. How much will yellow borders versus silver borders affect the price long term? Do you believe that the yellow borders will one day be viewed as nostalgic? I don't think it's going to affect it too much. Honestly, I don't think it's really going to have much of an impact at all. To be honest, the yellow borders being nostalgic, yeah, it actually could be. Is it going to really actually affect the value? Actually, no, I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the value. It will affect the nostalgic factor for sure, but I don't think it's going to really affect the value. Nothing substantial that you'll actually notice. What do you look for when you decide to submit cards for grading? Would you ever submit a card for grading knowing that the card value is less than the cost of grading? That's a good question. That is, would I? So essentially, the card value would be less than the cost of grading. That's what they consider a junk slab, basically. You're wasting your money grading something. But are you wasting your money? Now, if you're doing this, if you're grading just for the sense of flipping that card, it's not worth it. If you're grading, though, because you want to preserve your collection And now this freaking Gengar's pissing me off back here because he's actually laying down, and now my freaking acrylic freaking shelf is kind of bowed because he's laying down over there. Anywho, if it's for your personal collection, yeah, fine. I graded this. The grading cost is pretty much is more than the cost of the card, but I like the card. This is something I want in my collection. So if it's something that you want in your collection, I see no problem with that. No problem at all. What do I look for when grading? Now, if I'm grading to make, for certain cards, yes, I'm gonna want to get the best condition possible. I want to make sure that I have a 10. If that's the case, I will definitely look for making sure that the centering is good, the edges are all good. That's what I'll basically look for. Other than that, like, if it's something that you just want slabbed in your collection, just slab it. Hypothetically, when collecting sealed long term, in your opinion, is it better to collect brand new modern product purchased at MSRP and one day potentially witness a 5 to 10 times gain, or purchase XY Sun and Moon from secondary markets and potentially double or triple your investment? Okay, so I've actually talked about this with some other people. To sum this all up, as simply put, the lowest cost entry level is going to be your best bet, okay? You're going to have a lower risk of investment if you pay less money. So when you buy these Sun and Moon sealed products, you're going to pay obviously a lot more because they've been out of print for quite a bit longer than these Sword and Shield products. You're going to pay more, you're going to take more risk. If you pay more, more risk. Pay less risk. Once you do hit a certain threshold, growth does slow down in most cases. I'm sure there is a weird oddball case where that is not true, but for most of these products, you will see the majority of your growth in those lower numbers. That, by lower numbers, I mean, like, if you bought your booster box at $100, a $200 booster box 2 years later, that's a good amount of growth in 2 years, okay? But you don't always see that $100 growth in 2 years or 1 year or whatever in a higher priced product, okay? Sometimes they'll stay steady for a long time and it won't even move. So that's what I mean by that, okay? Hope that I didn't lose you there. That's a wrap. That's all I got for you guys. I hope you've got some insight out of this video and enjoyed what I had to say. As always, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful day, and let's make like Charizard and keep this passion burning.